After the break here on RT International, a wind of change in Russia's foreign policy as Moscow continues to turn its attention to the east.
We are not talking the language of war, but I will only react to situations.
I have read the reports, but I'm not in a position to...
No, I will leave that to the State Department to comment on your latter point.
I don't want to say that.
Mr. Kerry, do you have any comments on the document? No comment? Thank you.
No more weasel words. When you evade a direct question, be prepared for a chase. When you throw a punch, be ready for a battle.
Freedom of speech means little without the freedom to question.
Do we speak your language? Want news, programs and documentaries in Arabic? It's all here on RT. Reporting from the world's hotspots, VIP interviews, intriguing stories. Are you here? Then try RT Arabic. To find out more, visit arabic.rt.com.
Hello again. UK and Scottish oil leaders are holding an emergency summit today. It's all amid calls for the government to help operators in the North Sea. They're warning of long-lasting damage and they want tax cuts and a £2 billion aid package. RT's Polly Boyko now reporting on the struggle in the energy industry.
Scotland's Granite City is suffering from rock-bottom oil prices. Energy majors, including BP, Shell and Chevron, have announced hundreds of redundancies in their North Sea operations. With contracts being cancelled and projects shelved, thousands more jobs are predicted to go. At Aberdeen's helicopter terminal, which ferries workers to and from the oil platforms, job security is in short supply.
You don't want to lose your job, do you? You've got a family to feed and everything, so...
That's just the way of the downturn. People's jobs will go, but whose and when, nobody will know.
Much of the North Sea oil industry is only profitable if oil is above $60 per barrel.
These will be disconnected from the seabed, taken ashore and stacked, mothballed. So everybody working on these will be paid off.
The discovery of black gold in the North Sea over 40 years ago transformed Aberdeen into a pocket of wealth. Salaries here are higher than the national average. And according to one measure, this city boasts the highest concentration of millionaires in Britain. But it's not just the oil industry workers who are watching the price of oil now with concern.
They're not making money, then I'm not making money, so they're not going offshore, I'm not taking them back and forth to the airport.
The Governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, recently said that the current oil price is a shock to the Scottish economy.
The contribution of the oil and gas sector to the Scottish economy is very substantial. It's a major employer. Also, in the central belt of Scotland, there are considerable numbers of people in the supply chain whose livelihood depends on the North Sea as well.
There are fears that with rigs now being mothballed, this could be the beginning of the end of the whole North Sea business.
Beginning of the end for the older fields. So if they suffer a big shutdown now, the cost of trying to bring that platform back up again is probably going to be too great, and some guy back in Houston will put the red pen through it and it just won't start again.
Signs like these are a reminder of just how reliant this area is on oil. It made Aberdeen Scotland's richest city, but with prices this low, the sun could be setting on its good fortune. Polly Boyko, RT, Aberdeen, Scotland.
Yeah, we'll certainly keep you updated on the ups and downs of the emergency summit being held in Aberdeen throughout the day. Though Scotland is not alone. Major oil producers like Russia and Venezuela are also taking quite a pummeling due to the plunging prices. Now, online for you right now at rt.com, voluntary electroshocks in Alaska. Last year, a community safety officer apparently tasered 2 kids aged 8 and 10. Why? Because they asked him to. The police are now investigating. Also online at rt.com. Heavy snowfall leaving people trapped in their homes in a northern Swedish town. But a local gym has come to the rescue, insisting all of its members get outside, off the treadmills and start shoveling the driveway. Full story online right now. Now on the program, if you've ever rated a hotel or restaurant online, look out. The tables are now turned. The online taxi service Uber is now rating its passengers. And if your rating is low, well, good luck getting picked up next time you need a ride. And sometimes, though, it can appear very easy to fall from grace. You can be given a poor review because you're too quiet during your taxi ride. Some drivers give poor marks to people who ruin their mood. Take it easy on the drinks, maybe. You can also lose several points by being a bit too smelly and never, ever, ever slam the door. That really upsets the drivers. We spoke to Hussein Kanji, a frequent Uber customer. He says actually the system is flawed and it might be unfair.
I think that the impetus for the scoring system is good. I think it's a good idea for both sides to know who's good, who's bad. But there's no guidance. Nowhere in the app, nowhere in any of the help, does it tell you that this is what you're supposed to do. It's pretty rare that I'm a bad passenger. I don't think I could do anything that would trigger a driver being upset, apart from asking them to turn down the music every once in a while. But because there's no feedback mechanism and you don't see your score, you have no idea if what you've done may have upset the driver or not. So it does make sense to enable these things, but I think they have to be a lot more transparent.
Some other international headlines in brief. A massive fire breaking out at a tire factory in Thailand. The blaze took over 6 hours to contain and destroyed over a third of the factory's storage space. The Chinese company which owns the place is estimated to have lost about $40 million in damage. No casualties reported, but the plant is going to be shut for a few days. To America, blizzard conditions and heavy snowfall nailing Chicago. Tens of thousands are still without power. In some areas, the snowstorm was accompanied by extremely high-moving winds. Roughly 2,000 flights have been cancelled, and the National Weather Service advising against all non-emergency travel. Peter Grest, a reporter for Al Jazeera, has been released from prison in Egypt and is currently on his way home to Australia. Grest was arrested by Egyptian authorities in December 2013, along with 2 colleagues. The 3 sentenced to between 7 and 10 years in prison on charges that included aiding a terror group. The trial was condemned by rights organizations. It prompted a huge international storm of criticism. The former Xerox building in Dallas, Texas, is now reduced to not much. A pile of rubble and steel is all that's left. It was a controlled demolition of the 12-story office building. The implosion carried out by demolition experts to make way for yet another shopping mall. Now, global influence, terror threats, and the struggling global economy are the subjects up for discussion by the foreign ministers of Russia, China, and India when they meet in Beijing. Ties between the 3 have been strengthening all the time, with Moscow's foreign industry chief saying that they've reached unprecedented levels. Ilya Petrenko now reports from Beijing.
As the West turns its back on Russia, Moscow doesn't hesitate to expand its ties with Beijing and Delhi. Now, this isn't BRICS in its full capacity, but Russia, India, and China alone does sound like a very impressive alliance. The 3 make about 40% of the global population and 20% of global land mass, and also 20% of the world's GDP. We've got China as the world's #1 exporter in a whole lot of things. Russia is one of the top exporters of energy resources, and currently India is the world's leading arms importer. So this triangle does raise eyebrows in Europe and America. We keep hearing about an international isolation of Russia from Western leaders, but as part of this triangle and being welcomed by Chinese leader himself, Xi Jinping, Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov certainly doesn't feel isolated here in Beijing.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been invited to address a joint session of the U.S. Congress, an occasion he will reportedly use to condemn a nuclear deal with Iran that the White House and its European partners have been working hard to put together. President Obama, however, he wants the speech cancelled. Strained U.S.-Israeli relations, it's up for debate today, the latest edition of Crosstalk.
The Israeli position is they want the complete dismantlement of Iran's nuclear program. Particularly, they want to ban all uranium enrichment by Iran. The U.S. position since 2010 is that under some circumstances, enrichment should be permitted. The position that there should be no enrichment whatsoever
really
has been described by even the Israeli intelligence community as completely unrealistic at this point, given the symbolic importance of enrichment. They're still very, very, very far away from a nuclear weapon.
The Iranians are not far away from a nuclear capability at all. As a matter of fact, if it were not for the interim agreement, they would be no more than weeks or at most 3 months away from having enough highly enriched uranium for a first bomb, and maybe they would need another year to weaponize. That's not a lot of time. And the other point is, it isn't true that the American position has recognized enrichment for 5 years now. Until the negotiations began, that was the American position, zero enrichment.
I love it. Anytime.